Have you ever heard of a cyanotype? This is a fascinating imaging process that uses the power of the sun to create these gorgeous deep blue designs. You can make your own cyanotype paper or buy pre-made sheets. Which one's better? We're going to test both in this video while I show you how to make these pretty botanical cards together. Hello everyone, Jennifer Maker here. It's a beautiful day to learn a new technique that actually requires a beautiful sunny day. Now, cyanotype projects do involve testing, pre-mixing, letting things sit in the sun, rinsing and drying, but the results are so worth it. I want you to watch this tutorial all the way through before you shop for supplies so you can plan everything out and check the weather forecast too. Then you'll be ready when the sun is out. I just love cyanotypes because it really feels magical to use the sun in an art project. Now, the cyanotype process has to do with chemical reactions and different colors of light, but don't worry, I'll show you how to do it without getting too scientific. First, a little history. Cyanotype printing has been around since 1842. The name comes from ancient Greek and is a really good hint at what's going to happen here. Cyan means dark blue, right? Like the cyan ink cartridge for your printer. And type in this case means mark or impression. So a cyanotype is an image that primarily uses dark blue. I'm sure you figured that out. But you don't need a printer, just the sun. So how does that work? Well, there are several ways to make cyanotypes, but they primarily involve blocking sections of a specially coated material and setting the project out in the sun. The uncovered areas will react to the sun's rays and turn a deep, beautiful blue. But the block sections won't get activated by the sunlight, so they'll remain the material's original color. I'm going to teach you how to make cyanotypes on paper today. See, aren't they cool? But there are ways to use this process in other materials like fabric too. Remember, I mentioned the paper has to be specially treated because plain paper will not magically turn blue in the sunlight. We all know this already, right? I'll show you two ways to make a cyanotype print on paper so you can pick the process that fits your goals. One way is to prepare the paper yourself using a cyanotype kit, like this one I used from Barely Art. I like making the cyanotype from the very beginning, but this does take several days of preparation, so keep that in mind. If you want faster results, you can purchase pre-made cyanotype paper, which is ready to go right out of the package. I found some paper that works nicely, so I'll show you that method too. If you decide to prepare the paper on your own, have an apron, disposable gloves, and lots of butcher paper ready to protect yourself and your work surface from staining. Now, whichever approach you choose, this project does take some planning. The prepared paper will start reacting as soon as it's exposed to sunlight or even strong indoor light, so you'll need a dimly lit area to prepare. Then, when you're ready to start the printing, you'll get the best results with strong sunlight. The perfect time to make a cyanotype is in the middle of a beautiful summer day, like today. It's June right now. It's very sunny outside, but you can make these year-round. You might just need to let the cyanotype sit in the sun a little longer, or the blue might not develop quite as deeply, but it will still be beautiful. Because there are so many variables, it's a good idea to run some tests before exposing your projects to get the result you want. I prepared a few sheets of paper and set them out in the sun partially covered. Then I moved the protective layer a little bit over the course of several minutes to gradually expose new areas of the treated paper. That way, the first section was exposed for the full amount of time, and the last section I uncovered was exposed for the shortest amount. I picked my favorite blue and estimated the time that section was exposed, and then used that amount for my projects. Your best time will depend on what time of year you're making a cyanotype, the weather, even the sun's position in the sky. So it's a good idea to run some tests on your own. Even the test sheets are pretty enough to display, I think. Now, since cyanotype materials begin processing as soon as they're exposed to sunlight or fluorescent light, it's best to prepare everything in dim light or shadowy areas. Recording this video in a dark room would make it hard for you to follow, however, so we've kept the lights brighter than you normally would. So don't be confused by that. You might see some of the projects start to turn blue before they're out in the sun because of our bright lights. But don't try to make yours do the same. If your colors start to change before you're ready, turn your light lower or move to a darker area to stop the process. Today I'm going to make some cyanotypes using pretty botanical designs cut from cardstock using my Cricut. You can experiment with different types of items to create any style of cyanotype that you like. It is really fun to see how different silhouettes work out. Now my free download has SVG and DX files that you can use with a cutting machine, like a Cricut Maker, Explorer, Venture, the Joy Extra, and other kinds of cutting machines. There's also a PDF so you can cut by hand, but a cutting machine will create the detailed designs with crisp edges, so the line between the blue and the white is really distinct. I'm using white 80-pound cardstock to cut my pieces. And remember, machines can cut differently, so I'll share the settings and mats that I use, but it's a good idea to try a test sheet to see what works best for you first. Now, besides the cardstock and the cyanotype kit, you'll also need a piece of cardboard larger than your project and a clear acrylic sheet to hold everything in place. I used some small clamps to be extra careful in case there was a gust of wind, but they're optional. You'll also need a pan bigger than your project and access to fresh water to stop the chemical reaction, and a way to hang the prints to dry indoors. They tend to curl, so I use some old heavy books to press the prints flat too. Just be aware, the book might get damp, so don't use your favorites. I cut my prints to fit on the front of these 5x7 note cards using a paper trimmer and adhered them with Barely Art craft glue, but you can display yours however you like. And I just love how these turned out, and I can't wait to make more. I also have information on how you can create your own cyanotype stencil, so stay tuned until the last step. I love sharing designs with you, but I'd love to see what you can create too. No matter which process you pick, you can make a cyanotype using this step-by-step tutorial. And I've got a full list of the tools and supplies, plus links on where to find them in my materials list below this video. It's also over at jennifermaker.com/622. That's also where you'll find written instructions with helpful photos and tips. So, are you ready to get started? Let me show you where to get the free designs, and then we will begin this really fascinating process. Option number 1. Cyanotype Sensitizer with cardstock shapes. Step 1. Make your solutions 2 days ahead. If you're using the Barely Art Cyanotype Sensitizer kit like I am, it needs to be prepared and then sit for 24 hours ahead of time. Then you'll mix the liquids and apply it to your paper within 2 to 4 hours. It will then need to dry for 24 hours before exposure. So, 2 days before you plan to make a cyanotype, protect a work surface out of direct sunlight with butcher paper. Put on some nitrile gloves, an apron, and a dust mask to protect yourself too. Take out the 2 bottles from the kit and carefully uncap them. Now there is powder inside the bottles, so don't tip them over before opening. Use cool water to fill each bottle all the way to the neck. Then put the caps back on tightly and shake the bottles well. Let them sit in a dark spot for at least 24 hours. Once you add water to the bottles, they can sit in a cool, dry place for up to 6 months. Step 2. Download and cut my free cyanotype card designs. First, download the free designs at jennifermaker.com/622. You can either download right from that link by saving the project, or download from my entire free design collection. To find it, look for Libraries in the red bar at the top, and then click either Get a Password if you don't yet have one, or click Enter the library. Search the page for design number 622 and click the link to download the designs. And if you're not sure how to use these files, go to jennifermaker.com/svgs to learn how to download and unzip files. The SVG has 3 designs that you can pick from: one with ferns, one with flowers in a portrait orientation, and one with flowers in a landscape orientation. There's also a DXF folder with cut files and a PDF folder with versions that you can cut by hand if you need to. But a cutting machine makes creating the designs much faster. I'm using a Cricut Maker 3 cutting machine in this video, but the files can be cut on an Original Maker, an Explorer Series, a Venture, the Joy Extra, or another cutting machine. To make your project in Cricut Design Space, start on a blank canvas, then click the Upload button and then select Upload Image. Click Browse and find the SVG folder, then click Upload to add it to the canvas. Click Ungroup to ungroup the designs because they'll be grouped by default. Pick the design you want and delete the others. I'll use the landscape flowers. Now the designs are sized to fit the front panel of the 5 by 7 inch note cards that are listed in my materials list, so you are all ready to cut. I'll click Save and give my project a name so I can find it again later. Make sure the correct machine is selected and then click Make. On the Prepare screen, check that your mat looks correct. If you make the design as it's uploaded, you should have one 12 by 12 inch mat. And then click Continue. On the Make screen, pick Medium cardstock and change the pressure to More. Place your 80-pound cardstock face up on a green standard grip machine mat, and use a brayer to make sure it's fully adhered since these are intricate cuts. And then make sure your premium fine point blade is clean and in the correct clamp, and load your mat into the machine and press the flashing button to start loading it. And then when it's all loaded, press the flashing button to begin cutting. If you run into any issues cutting your cardstock, check out my Cricut tips and tricks for cleaner cuts over at jennifermaker.com/blades. When the cut is finished, don't unload it right away. Instead, carefully lift up a corner of the cardstock to make sure the cuts went all the way through. If they didn't, press the same button as before, so that middle button, to make a second pass. And then when your cut is all complete, unload the mat, flip it over, and gently roll it back to release the cardstock to keep it from curling and ripping. If the smaller bits don't easily release from the mat, use a spatula to carefully lift them up. Use a weeding tool or tweezers to gently pop out or pull off any bits that are stuck on the edges. And don't worry if the edges look a little frayed or get a bit bent in the process. It will add texture and dimension to the organic nature of the design. Step 3, prepare your Cyanotype sensitizer and paper. Now, the day before you plan to expose your prints, set your card and sensitizer supplies on some butcher paper in your dimly lit workspace. Put on your apron and gloves to avoid any stains. In a small container, mix equal amounts of the prepared liquids using a measuring spoon. And only make as much as you think you're going to need to cover your project. For example, a tablespoon of each solution combined will cover the front of at least 5 by 7 inch note cards if you use a nice thin coat. Use a foam brush to evenly cover a 5 by 7 inch note card with a light coat of the mixed sensitizer solution. The paper is going to look light green, so don't worry about that. Let the paper dry on a flat, dry surface in the dark for 24 hours. Step 4. Prepare your cyanotype for exposure. On the day you plan to expose the card, make sure the surface is dry while still in the dimly lit work area. Place the dry card with the painted side up on a slightly larger piece of cardboard. We'll use it as a base to move the project without touching it. Now, without exposing anything to direct light, center the cut design on the painted surface. Gently lower the clear acrylic over the entire project to keep everything in place. You can use the small clamps to secure the acrylic to the cardboard too, especially if there might be some wind. If the design shifts once the project is exposed to sunlight, the edges might blur and you don't want that. Step 5. Expose your cyanotype print. Now carefully move your project to direct sunlight and expose it for the amount of time that you picked during testing. For my examples, I let my prints sit for 5 minutes on a nice sunny day. If you're not sure what to do, start with 5 minutes of exposure. And remember, the sun's strength that day can impact the time, so keep an eye on the project as you expose it. Step 6. Rinse and dry your print. Once the exposure is complete, quickly bring the project inside and remove the extra tools and materials. Try to keep the card out of direct light as you do this. Place the print in a tray of cold water and gently agitate it to rinse the chemicals for up to 5 minutes. Keep the print in motion and refresh the water a few times so the rinsed chemicals don't settle back on the paper. You can also rinse the print under a faucet if that's easier. When the water remains clear, blot the print with paper towels to remove any extra water. Then hang it to dry indoors for 24 hours in a dark, dry place. If the print's edges are curled when it's dry, layer it between some white cardstock and press it flat under an old, heavy book for several hours. Option number 2. Pre-packaged cyanotype paper and cardstock design. Step 1. Prepare your materials. If you don't want to deal with making cyanotype paper yourself, there are lots of pre-made materials that you can use. But just like the card we made, any pre-coated cyanotype paper will start processing as soon as it's exposed to sunlight, so you still need a dimly lit area for this. I'll show you how to use pre-made cyanotype paper with the same cut cardstock design from the first project so we can compare the results at the end. Working out of sunlight, open the cyanotype paper's packaging and take out just what you need. Seal the remainder up tightly to keep light from getting in and activating your other sheets. It needs to stay dry too. Place the prepared paper coated side up on a slightly larger piece of cardboard to make moving the project easier. And center your design on the paper. Gently lower the clear acrylic over the entire project to keep everything in place. You can use the small clamps to secure the acrylic to the cardboard too. Step 2. Expose the cyanotype paper. Carefully move the project to a dry area with direct sunlight and let it sit for the time that you picked during testing. The uncovered areas will change from yellow to green and then a silvery gray-green. If you have a lot of sun, even 5 minutes will be enough to make the cyanotype paper work. Step 3. Rinse the paper project. When you're ready to stop the exposure, bring the project back to your dimly lit work area. Now, quickly but carefully, remove the clamps, acrylic, and design. And rinse the chemicals off in a tray of cold water. Remember, keep the print in motion and refresh the water until it stays clear, meaning the chemicals are all gone. Blot the print with paper towels and hang it to dry indoors in the dark for 24 hours. If the print's edges curl while drying, press it flat under a heavy book for several hours. And once it's totally dry, your print is complete. Optional, attach your cyanotype print to a note card. After the print is dry, trim it to fit the front of a note card with a paper trimmer. Now you don't want a lot of glue to make the paper ripple, so add small dots of craft glue to the print's back in the corners, edges, and middle. Center your print face up on the note card's front and gently press to secure it. Step 4. Show it off. Here are my finished cyanotype printing projects. Isn't this blue so pretty? I love how vivid it is. Step 5. Customize it. Would you like to make a cyanotype print using your own design? Of course you would, because that's the fun part. I can show you how to design your own using my toolkit, along with free tools that are in Cricut Design Space. Once you know the steps, you can create your own stencils of pretty much whatever you want. The tutorial is part of a special program called Advance with Jennifer Maker, which helps expand your crafting skills by teaching you how to make these popular designs unique and special through tutorials and templates, as well as give you advanced access to my vast library of designs, projects, and resources. Now, I may or may not be accepting new members into the advanced program at the time you see this, but if you're interested, go to jennifermaker.com/advance to learn more and see how it all works. Magical, right? I just love the blue. Making cyanotypes is really easier than it looks, but I still think it kind of looks like magic. The most important things to remember are to prepare your materials ahead of time and always work in dim lighting until you're ready to start the processing. So, which version did I like better? Making my own cyanotype paper or buying pre-made sheets? That's the question I proposed at the beginning, right? The colors of the pre-packaged paper aren't quite as vibrant as the ones that I made with the Barely Art Cyanotype kit, right? So this one is the pre-packaged one, and this is the one made with the Barely Art Cyanotype kit. But they're still really pretty. And if you're short on time or you don't want to get messy, the ready-made paper is certainly the way to go. But if you have the time and the space to make your own cyanotype paper, I really encourage you to do so. I had the best results when I made sure to paint a thin, even coat of the Sensitizer on the paper. That way the liquid didn't pool in some spots because it was more difficult to rinse the really heavy saturated areas. But that usually happened at the edges and they were easy to trim off. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments which version you would want to try. I love all the possibilities of cyanotype printing, and I can't wait to see what you make. Remember, you can get all the details and links on my blog post at jennifermaker.com/622. And also, don't forget, a special workshop on how to design your own cyanotype stencil is also available over at jennifermaker.com/advance. So, do you have an idea for a cyanotype stencil but don't have a Cricut cutting machine? You could try cutting it by hand, of course, or you can enter to win a Cricut cutting machine of your very own. I regularly do a Cricut machine giveaway over on my blog, so enter for the chance to win and get all of the giveaway details at jennifermaker.com/Cricut giveaway. I'd love for you to win and make your own designs with ease. If you have any questions, just let me know. As always, you can leave your question below this video or ask over in our Cricut Crafters group at jennifermaker.com/Cricut Crafters. And please, please, please share photos of your cyanotype projects too. We all absolutely love to see them. And that's it for today. Until next time, this is Jennifer Maker reminding you to craft a life you love.